How's it going, everyone? Sethphir here, and welcome back to another Honkai Star Rail video. Today is going to be my guide for the best relics in the game, and this is going to help you avoid making critical mistakes of wasting your materials on relics that are not that good for you. So this is going to be part 1 in the series. It's going to be a 2-part series, and here we are going to be talking about the best stats and substats for relics. So let's go ahead and dive right in. When we talk about relics, we first have to talk about rarity. There is a massive difference in the damage that you will be outputting with higher rarity relics. Legendary relics have the potential to be upgraded to plus 15, which is a very big step up from purple relics being upgraded to 12, and blue relics only having a max potential of 9. The stat value is going to increase as you upgrade the relic, which will make it more powerful, and it has a higher percentage starting value to begin with. In addition to that, every 3 levels that you upgrade a relic piece, you will get a bonus substat added to the list, and this will further power you up. Blue relics will start with between 1 and 2 substats already on the piece of gear. Purple relics will start between 2 and 3 substats on the piece of gear, and the best, legendary relics, will start between 3 and 4 substats already on the piece of gear. This is very important because if you can start with 4 substats, that means that every 3 levels that you upgrade will be a bonus increase to that substat, which will provide you more value in the end after you finish upgrading it all the way to plus 15. Next up, let's talk about the best main stats that you can have for each gear slot. For the head piece and the hands piece slot, you will only be able to have HP and attack respectively. You cannot change this value, it is always guaranteed to have this as a main stat, so there's not too much to say here. When we get to the body slot for relics, this is where things start to change a little bit. You have a few options, and the best option for majority of damage dealer characters is going to be crit rate. There is a little bit of an exception with certain characters that might utilize crit damage over crit rate, but generally this is going to be the best way to go. For healer characters, having HP percentage on the piece itself is going to be very valuable, as that will increase the potency of the heal, but you also have the option to have outgoing healing boost, which can be a very strong option as well. It just depends on the scaling and the amount of HP that you have, and whether you want to be more defensive or put out more healing output. For preservation type characters, you are looking for defense percent. This is going to be your biggest increase to shielding power, and it will allow you to have absolutely massive shields on your entire team and keep them alive. And finally, another strong option is going to be the sleeper option here. This is going to be effect hit rate. This is going to increase your odds of freezing or stun locking a monster or applying any sort of status effect or debuff, so this can be very powerful on specific units like March 7 and Gepard, as you will be able to lock your opponent in place and prevent them from taking actions altogether whatsoever. There are also several sets that scale based on effect hit rate, so this can be a very powerful bonus, so keep your eyes peeled out for this one. Next on our list, we have the feat slot for relics, and this is going to come with a few good options, but this is going to be where we get to our first most important piece. A lot of people are going to opt into attack percent, and this is actually a little bit of a mistake. Speed is going to be your best attribute to be available for the boot slot. And the reason why is speed is going to increase the amount of actions that you can take within a given turn. A lot of people are unfamiliar with speed and how it works, as it is a unique stat to Honkai Star Rail, so I'll give a brief explanation here. But essentially, when your character gets placed into combat, it will get an action value in the top left of the screen. When you get that action value, once you take an action, you will then have that action value lowered by a significant amount, which oftentimes pushes you into the next turn. The higher speed that you have, the lower that amount will be, and it will push you up in the turn order. So it is possible to take multiple turns within the same cycle, and this is very important because the best endgame activity that you could do is going to be the Forgotten Halls, and inside of there it's going to require you to defeat bosses within a certain amount of turns. Usually that amount can be 7 or less in the late game, so being able to take multiple turns within that same turn cycle is going to increase your damage output and allow you to complete the end game content. It's going to be very tempting to take attack percent, and some characters can make use of attack percent, like Seele, because she has the ability to take multiple turns, so she may get value out of this outside of the speed just by taking action forward effects. But for general usage, speed is going to be the way to go. It is very, very hard to find speed gear, so be on the lookout for this and do not delete this stuff if you find it, especially if you don't have any other better options. If speed is unavailable to you, the next best thing for DPS characters is gonna be, well, attack. Healer characters should also use speed, however, if you do not have that, you can opt into HP percent. And for preservation characters, you should be using speed as well, but defense percent can be a good option if you do not have it available within the set. Next up, we have the Planar Spear. This is going to be very important because it is going to be one of the largest sources of damage boost for your character. You're going to want to go ahead and match the element for this, so Quantum for Seele is going to be the way to go, Fire for Himeko, and so on and so forth. So you're looking for the correct element that you want to apply here. And I will note that healers cannot really make use of damage that much, so having something like HP percent increase is going to be very valuable to them. So if you see this in the correct set for a healer, you can go ahead and use that. There is also a defense option for orbs, which is good for preservation characters, because generally they don't rely on doing too much damage, but some of them do have some effects that want them to deal DPS, so you could probably consider using their element or the defense option, depending on if you want more damage or survivability. And finally, we have the last remaining option, which is going to be the link chain. The link chain or the link rope is going to give you an attack increase, which is going to be the best choice for DPS style characters. If you can get attack increase, you will see a big jump in damage. For healers, you can look to opt in for anything with HP percent. And once again, for preservation characters, you guessed it, you could go for defense percent or add in some combination of attack percent if you want to increase the damage output. With main stats out of the way, let's start talking about sub-stats. Sub-stats are shared across every single relic slot piece, so no matter what you do, you will have the same option of every stat within the game, which will be able to be rolled as a sub-stat. If your specific relic piece has a main stat, it is not possible to roll an additional sub-stat of the same type. So for example, if I have crit rate on this piece of gear, I will not be able to roll crit rate as a sub-stat down in the bottom category. I will have to look for other options. For DPS, the best sub-stats on all pieces of gear is going to be crit rate, crit damage, speed, and attack percent. This is going to be your best possible values. For healing characters, you are looking to get speed and then HP percentage. After that, you can look for any other substat that is relevant to the character. You could splash in a bit of crit, you could splash in a bit of attack, or even affect hit rate if they have something that can proc some sort of control effect. For preservation or shielding characters, you should be looking for speed first and foremost, and then after that you should probably be leaning in heavily towards main damage dealing stats, so crit rate, crit damage, and especially effect hit rate, because preservation characters tend to have special effects that are applied to them, so this can be a very powerful combination. And since you're looking for defense as a main stat for your piece of gear, of course you won't be able to get it in the substats, so just keep that in mind when looking for gear pieces. So those are my thoughts on the best relics in the game. Keep in mind this is part 1 of the guide. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell if you enjoyed this guide or found it useful, as part 2 will be coming up very soon, and we will be talking about the best sets for characters. I wanted to leave you with a little bit of final thoughts, and I will say that don't be afraid to upgrade some of your pieces now. Don't take them too far, but a little bit can help you with a boost of power to accomplish the goals that you want, and you can always use them as fodder to feed them into better pieces down the line. You will take a little bit of an XP penalty, so it's best not to push too far up there, but getting something like +3, +6 at the end of the day won't really hurt you, especially if it's on a purple piece of gear that happens to have some good roll sets. As you increase your level up, your Trailblaze level, and as we get closer to level 40 and beyond, we will start seeing legendary pieces of gear, and it was recommended that you start aiming for your relics around that time. Once you have the the option to get legendary pieces of gear, it's going to be a lot easier for you to commit your daily resources to roll for relics. And finally, keep in mind that the odds of you getting the absolute perfect piece of gear with 4 substats already on it and all the best stats and rolling really high percentages is going to be incredibly astronomically low. So a lot of times you're going to have to take a piece of gear that's good enough and use it to progress. So if it has a couple of the stats that are the most desirable, this is a good piece of gear and could be considered to be upgraded. It doesn't have to be perfect for you to invest into it. Alright, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for your time and watching the video. I truly appreciate the support, and we will hopefully see you in the next one.